Our next presenter is Meredith Brewer. Meredith, you have the floor.
Sex education, a consistent point of contention within our schools and communities. Year after year, it is highly debated in our politics, and medically accurate information is often criticized and overshadowed by what is appropriate. Parents and educators might feel more comfortable talking to teens about eating healthy or physical exercise, but I argue that discussions centered around sexual health are far more important for their health and well-being. I served as a Peace Corps volunteer, no shot by this audience, in Guyana. And while I was talking about consent and doing condom demonstrations, I often reflected on my own sex education back in the United States. You see, I grew up in Central Illinois, and the only sex education I could remember were some particularly scary and frankly traumatizing photos from the textbooks. You know, the ones where they had penises flayed and fried with sores and the vulvas covered in cauliflower warts? Yeah, those. And I'm sorry for cringing in your seat. It took a lot to write that part of the speech. Now, when I returned from my Peace Corps service and I was in the solitude of COVID-19, I decided to continue my reflection on the fear-based sex education I received. And I started researching the restrictive and hand-holding policies here in Arizona. Frustrated with the consistency or the inconsistencies of sex education throughout the United States, I decided to put my passion to the microphone. In February of last year, I started the Sex Ed Enthusiast podcast. And that's where I provide sex education that is shame-free, medically accurate, and inclusive of all. I've had 15 episodes, and the first episode, which I have up above, Condoms, A Brief History of Wrapping Penises and Weird Shit, I go through all the different things throughout cultures and societies in human history on how they prioritize sexual health. And my other episodes follow a similar format, information and a hint of comedy. I talk about classic sex ed topics like contraceptives, but I also encourage queer inclusivity and talk about the barriers and complexities within our societies. A year into the podcast, and listenership has been steadily growing. We have listeners from 18 to 34, mainly here in the United States, but my reach does extend into the United Kingdom, Canada, India, Australia, just to name a few. I've got 15 episodes, like I said, that start from STIs to contraceptives to reproductive anatomy. My entire goal of this podcast is to bridge that gap left behind by our parents and our schools. And I really do hope, that even though I am up to the task, and one of the only adults up to the task, that I can talk about this stuff, that us and communities, we can start destigmatizing sexual health, so we can empower you to make healthy sexual decisions. Thank you.